Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shirtless Plantain Show. This is the Champions League edition. I'm your host, Tosin. Alongside me is Coach Dean, and we have one of our favorites, Elliot. How you doing today?
Yeah, sorry, just finding the mute button there. Yeah, good. Nice to see you guys.
Nice to see you
Looking
too.
forward to the final later. Tosin, you still celebrating Man United?
Well,
Big celebration in Brooklyn, I imagine.
I mean, the game happened and it was back to normal. It was more so just like, all right, let's get this bald guy out of here. That's really how I felt. I'm not one of the United fans that want him in, and I need him to go. But it's great,
Wait, those exist?
Oh, there's a lot of there's a lot of United fans that want him to stay. I know a few personally, so yeah. Unfortunate.
They need help.
But the good thing is, in real hating, we knocked out Everton. We knocked out Newcastle. No Europe for them, and no Europe, and Chelsea go to Conference League. So I'm happy. I'm happy about that. So, but yes, it's actually great that I wore this because this is our Milan one. And guess what? We're gonna talk about Carlo Ancelotti. So let's talk about Carlo. Elliot, I want you to talk about Carlo and talk to us about how you feel about him because he's legend of the game and obviously he's coaching against Dortmund in the final and his career has expanded a lot. So you talk to me and tell me how you feel about Carlo.
Yeah, I've really started to root for him in recent years. I used to feel kind of ambivalent about him because initially his Italian sides were not that interesting. Like his Juve side. I guess his Parma side was quite fun. And then the Milan team had a lot about it. That mid-2000s Milan team was really fun. But I think it's really kind of the combination of him going back to Madrid post-Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And the number of times that they have caused a real problem for City in particular. It feels ridiculous rooting for Real Madrid as like an underdog, but that is like as an Arsenal fan, we're often neutrals in the Champions League basically, and over recent seasons. And Real Madrid are just so fun, which they didn't used to be, right? Like the Galacticos were pretty fun, and particularly because they had all the best players, and then they would lose. And now it feels like Ancelotti's Real Madrid keeps having to go up against the kind of Death Star Man City, and they kind of have their number. Obviously, they didn't last year, but a good number of times. And they're also the most entertaining team, I think, in Europe in terms of just how they tackle two-legged knockout football. There's always loads of jeopardy. There's always kind of back and forward. You always think they're about to go out, and then they kind of drag it back from the edge. And Ancelotti, I think, is such a compelling figure in terms of the longevity and the football heritage that he embodies, really. Like, you're talking about somebody who was managing in Serie A when it was dominant in the 90s, again in the 2000s, again in the 2010s, and he's still going. And just phenomenally successful, phenomenally adaptable. We always hear from the kind of hype merchants and journalists around the game that things now are much more tactically sophisticated. They're much more demanding. The players are much more professional. Everything's much more data driven. Ancelotti just keeps going and he keeps delivering. And I think it's a pretty good bullshit detector if people start saying, if you hear someone say that Ancelotti is not that great of a manager because he doesn't have some fancy system or philosophy or one of these terms that gets bandied about, it's complete nonsense. He's an incredible manager. He gets the best out of fantastic players, and if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, right? There's no other Ancelotti. He's one of one.
Yeah. Coach, how do you feel about Carlo?
No, I just wanted to add something to point about the bullshit detection. When people mention, oh, he can't be in this category because he only unfortunately has 6 league titles. It's one of those things that's just like, okay, yeah, only 6 titles. Although he's managed for this amount of time, it's like, other people are allowed to have good teams as well. If you're a great manager in those eras, you're gonna come up against other great teams and great managers as well. How much you win, as long as you're winning, how much you win to me, it doesn't really count as much because you have to start looking at the context around those wins as well. Ancelotti's 6 league titles are not all equal to other managers that have 10 league titles, because he's won in every single continent he's been in, with multiple teams and multiple systems as well. I know he's a huge fan of the diamond. We've seen that come out this season again in Real Madrid, but he's had to adapt because he has no number 9. But again, that diamond came out when he had Shevchenko and Thomason and Inzaghi, you know. So it's all, and then obviously at Chelsea with Drogba and Anelka. But he's always found ways to get the best out of top players, and top players sometimes can be harder to motivate because they've already done it all, they've already seen it all, to their mind they feel like they've hit their peak of their performance. But then you look at how he was able to get even more out of. We'll talk about Milan, but we'll just go back to the first Real Madrid win kind of thing. You know, players like Pepe, you know, Ramos wasn't a spring chicken by then as well. Like, he was getting a lot out of players that had already experienced with like won World Cups or whatever. Then you go back to Milan, you know, Shevchenko was already a Ballon d'Or winner. You know, Maldini, all these guys were already great, and he still managed to get them over the line again. So for him to reinvent himself with a team that's got an average age, or a midfield at least got an average age of like 21 or something like that, it's mind-boggling to me that he can still be talking about in such a, by some people should I say, in such a dismissive way. He's easily one of the GOATs, and you know, comparing him to someone like, I don't know, Guardiola, for example. Guardiola's greatness comes from the fact that he's been able to go into whatever job has whatever job should I say has the least requirements for improvement, if you like. So you go into Bayern Munich, they're already far ahead of everybody else. You know, you go into City, they're already far ahead of everybody else, kind of thing. All you're doing is, okay, I'm not dismissing his job, but he's had such a minimal impact, should I say, on the likelihood of those teams winning again, because they already are winners. They already been there. He's just kind of exceeded the gap more than anything. So yeah, shout out to Ancelotti and, you know, the work he does. And on top of that as well, like Antonio Rudiger, like finding a way to just make sure he doesn't press self-destruct every game. I think that should go down as Ancelotti's greatest achievement as far as I'm concerned.
He's Eric Bailly.
You're such a fucking racist.
Let's be real though, man. You've seen what he can do. I've seen this.
Do you remember? Hold on. Do you guys remember when he bit Pogba? Do you guys?
Man, this is what I'm talking about.
Like, you guys were talking about these things like they're somehow out of the ordinary. Like, this is the kind of shit I used to do when I played. Like, I was a Gonzalo Hara type dude, you know, like he thumbs up them places. Okay. Okay. That's neither here nor there. All this Ancelotti glazing, like, it's hard to argue with his excellence. He's definitely one of the GOATs, one of the legends, but I think in a really perverse way, he's actually fulfilled the hypothetical of what would it look like if a coach like Pep coached at a place like, I don't know, Everton. Ancelotti went to a team that didn't have the best players, and he didn't pull up any trees. He went to Bayern Munich, and that didn't go particularly well. They didn't really like him because he wasn't nerdy enough for them at the time. Even though the logic of hiring him made a lot of sense because they'd just been through 3 or 4 intense seasons with a nerd like Pep, you know, but he came in and the players were like, nah, this ain't it. You know, so as much as he's accomplished and as much as he's achieved, this current version of him that's about to coach a Champions League final and probably win it because, again, he has the best players. This is still a manager that, like many other managers, really succeeds on the quality of his players. You know, and again, if everyone could do it, everyone would be doing it. But no one on this call right now can tell me that Sean Dyche wouldn't win the Champions League final with these players that Ancelotti has at Real Madrid. And call that a hot take if you want. But you all know I'm right. You know I'm right. Look in your hearts and know that the ginger Mourinho would do this shit with Camavinga and Tchouameni and Bellingham. Like, come on, man. I could coach these motherfuckers to a Champions League final. I don't know. Like, all this Ancelotti glazing, man. Like, I'm glad because we always talk about if Pep went to a different club. Well, Ancelotti did, and we saw it, and the shit wasn't pretty. So I'm going to need y'all to excuse that shit. Elliot, please. Sorry, Dustin.
I think, unfortunately, what's happened with them, like how you assess managers, I think over recent years, and we see it with like the format of the Champions League for next season and just how stratified things are. There's almost like parallel conversations. There's like the managers of the very elite teams and it's a really small group. You know, I don't need to go over the names. That's why like we're having the conversation about Ancelotti and Guardiola and the contrast. And then I'm sure you guys were the same. Like growing up, the managers I admired the most and that I learned to admire the most were the ones who really raised the level of a club over a really long time. So hate to say it, but Ferguson, love to say it, Wenger, and also just miraculous things that managers would do. So like again, Ferguson winning the Cup Winners' Cup for Aberdeen. Last week, Gasperini winning for Atalanta. I think I absolutely loved that. Champions League doesn't really give you those stories anymore. It's just the same teams over and over and over again. So we have to take the kind of enjoyment where we can get it from this competition. And I think the competition's like become really dry, to be honest. And I think Ancelotti's Real Madrid, the reason I like them and the reason I think a lot of people enjoy them, maybe more than we expected, is that there is just that like real sense of risk and invention. That kind of like the way they pace themselves through games. You know, we were talking about Rudiger. Rudiger in the semi-final was essentially the playmaker when they were chasing a goal. He was playing in these like crazy good balls. And then did he score? Did he get an assist? I can't remember.
That's racist, Elliot.
Start. Wait, which bit?
It just felt like the right thing to say. Sorry.
Yeah, you throw me off there. But do you get what I'm saying? Like we're kind of having this like big historical conversation, and I think like, can you compare someone like Ancelotti? Is just like everybody recognizes he operates at an elite level over the past like 20 years or something, so that's where he gets the jobs. His Everton team was actually pretty good, and they had James Rodriguez as well. They were really fun to watch. I mean, they didn't win the Champions League or whatever, but if you'd given him more time, if Florentino hadn't come back for him, we would have seen him actually build a team there at Everton. I do think it speaks well for him that he actually took that job and like
he took the risk,
came over, managed Everton, took the risk, and he's got like an appetite for risk. I just think like that's why I find so. You know, you talk about Guardiola earlier. I honestly think they would have won more Champions Leagues if they didn't have Guardiola. They wouldn't have won as many leagues over the past. How long has he been there? 7-8 years. But Man City were in the semi-final before Guardiola with a really half-assed team under Mancini. I mean, they were just buying great players. If you kind of throw the team at the wall year after year, eventually you're going to start reaching some finals and winning them. I think they would probably have won 2 or 3 without Guardiola, as it is they've won 1 and balled the rest, as far as I'm concerned. So
unless you're PSG.
Yeah, exactly. No, they have perfected the recipe.
And that is a great segue because we could talk about Edin Terzic, which, you know, he's a great story. I know you mentioned about how like these different stories don't come up. I mean, Terzic was he was the Dortmund scout in 2010 to 2013, became the Besiktas assistant in 2013, 2015, West Ham's assistant in 2015, 2017, became assistant at Dortmund, managed them, became a technical director, and now he's there and taking them to a final, which, you know, they had their way of getting there, but it got there. And Edin Terzic is a great story. You know, it was great to see him. And the wild thing is his assistants make me feel so old. Like his assistants aren't like, isn't it one of the Bender brothers and what's his name? Yeah, and it's just like the hell yes. Sven Bender and Nuno Sarin, so it's amazing.
We watched them play. Watch Nuno Sarin at Liverpool, obviously. Watch them at Dortmund as well. I think, to be honest, I think it speaks well to Terzic, the fact that he's trusting guys that have just left the game, so they understand these modern players a bit better. That's always a good thing. I always thought on modern backroom staff, you need to have guys that understand the modern player more than anything. And I think it's very, very helpful. But Terzic himself, like, just this season alone, he's been through it. In December, like, these guys didn't, there was tons of reports that these guys didn't like him. And you know what Germans are like with mutinies? Like, if they don't like no, but seriously.
Hey man, this is not a political podcast.
I'm just saying we see at FC Hollywood almost every season. If they don't like the dinner lady, she's out. You'll hear about it in build. Oh, Muller didn't like the way the Frankfurters were prepared this week, kind of thing. And next, you see a dinner lady's out of a job at Bayern Munich. It happens so much in Germany where player power, they always run straight to the technical director, and they're all talking about. They don't like his tactics. They don't like how defensive he is. He only changed tactics when they complained to him. That was in December. and now they're in a Champions League final, and they all seem to love him. So when you talk about giving a coach time, when you talk about sometimes players needing time to adjust to how a coach does things, kind of thing. Terzic is a perfect example of that, and I think regardless of if they win it or not, he probably will keep the job at Dortmund, because he's shown that, look, in this era of football, kind of thing, he's able to produce something like this. And I don't think it'll be a bad shout to keep him, to be honest. You never know. Go on, Dean. I know you're itching for something.
Like, listen, man, like, God bless Terzic. I love the guy. I'm rooting for the guy, but the main reason why he's going to keep a job is because, do you see how hard it is for even the best team in the country to hire a coach right now? ain't nobody to hire. What's it going to do? Like, they're going to hire Kieran McKenna from Ipswich? Like, they're not. Like,
I know. I got something for them to hire. Erik ten Hag.
Oh, for goodness sake. Yeah, but I think he's got them now playing. He's got a system for them in the Champions League that has worked, kind of thing. They worked there. Like, I think the Atletico game impressed me a bit more than the PSG game, generally, because they worked their arses off for real. Like, we talk about Rudiger being a playmaker before. He was the guy that played that pass for Fulkrug in the
Hummels.
No, it wasn't Hummels. It became with Schlotterbeck.
Schlotterbeck? Yeah, Schlotterbeck.
That's the one. Yeah, like,
he's a great player. I love
Schlotterbeck. Generally, but everyone is stepping up. Everyone is stepping, and you don't do that unless you finally accepted the coach for who he is, basically. And I think do
you know how well Terzic has his players? He has many United fans missing. What's his name?
Sancho. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, Sabitzer, yeah. Who,
yeah.
By the way, I think if we get around to doing something like a team of the tournament, I kind of feel as if Marcel Sabitzer belongs.
He's got space in my team. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad.
We'll get there.
It's been a really embarrassing European season for like English clubs, right? Because like Sancho, Lookman, Sabitzer, it's a pretty long list of
David Raya
players that.
Well, Elliot, to be fair, Lookman only turned up even more intensely once he committed to Nigeria. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, obviously. There's a few more that should follow that example.
And you see what happened to Fikayo Tomori you see what happened to Fikayo when he said no to Nigeria. He's not even getting called up by England. He's just stuck in Milan and getting turned around by, a fourth-rate Nigerian striker. So, hey, it's neither here nor there. I'm not even trying to be rude, so it is what it is. But yeah, Dortmund, I mean, they have some good stories. I mean, it'll be kind of cool to see Marco Reus go out with a Champions League, but I don't see that's going to happen. But Marco Reus, I want you to talk about Marco Reus' team. That's someone I want you to talk about.
I think with Marco, and I'm talking about him like I know him because nothing has really changed about him since we first, he went to Mönchengladbach for a little bit, did really well, went back to Dortmund, but he's essentially been there through what feels like 100 different rebuilds. And, a lot of the reason why he didn't leave was because of the injuries he suffered. But as someone that's been through 5 lower body surgeries myself, like the amount of dedication and determination and will that it takes to come back from major injuries over and over and over again. And the fact that I think for him, I've seen interviews where he essentially admitted that he never actually considered leaving Dortmund. Like from the moment he got back there from Mönchengladbach, he never thought to leave because he's always felt as if the things he wanted to achieve in his career, he could achieve at Dortmund. And it would be really lovely to have one of the rare stories of loyalty we have left in the game get rewarded with a Champions League. Because the way they fumbled the season, the league title that they should have won last season against Bayern, only for Leverkusen to come through and crush the buildings this season, that's got to hurt. In quiet moments, I'm sure him and his teammates have talked about that. Even though one of the teammates who should be talking to it about is Jude Bellingham, who is on the other side of this equation next weekend. But I'm just like, this whole final is really about Marco Reus for me. I just want him. I want Dortmund to win, but I really just want Marco Reus to win. If Dortmund can lose and he somehow wins, that's fine by me. But I just really want Marco Reus to get rewarded for the fact that he essentially sacrificed. It's a bit Wengerish. He essentially sacrificed his career for a club. I think him being there was always a bit of an attraction for some of the players that they got. Because when you lose people like Lewandowski and Götze and all these really good players that he started with, it can be hard for a sporting director to attract other talent on that level. Where as long as Reus was there, they always had someone to be like, well, you play with Marco Reus. Eventually, it was like, well, we'd be playing at the hospital, but that's neither here nor there. I'd really like Marco to win this. That's what I'm here for, Marco Reus.
Ellie, you got anything you want to add about Marco Reus?
Yeah, he's a lovely player, and he's just been so unlucky over the years, and he missed the Germany World Cup when he would have, didn't he? He would have been a really big player, and they ended up playing like other guys like Schürrle and Götze in his place. I guess like the opposite case of Marco Reus is Hummels. Hummels went to Bayern, didn't he? And then he's come back.
He did.
But yeah, it's a nice story if they have a massive. I mean, you have to say it's been a really amazing season for them. Like getting to the finals is an amazing accomplishment, particularly after choking epically at the end of last season. I think it's a funny one in terms of how you kind of evaluate success, how you evaluate managerial performance. Terzic has not been in the job even very long, has he? 2022, I think he came in with basically no experience managing a team, and even if they lose on Saturday, that's runner-up in the Bundesliga, runner-up in the Champions League, with a team that's good and has got some interesting pieces, but is not like one of the great Dortmund sides, I think, in terms of kind of overall talent. So yeah, maybe he's got something about him after all. Is Royce? Do you think Royce will start the final?
No.
He's going to come off the bench.
He'll absolutely play a part. Regardless of if they're 1-0 up or 4-0 down, he's absolutely playing for sure. Go on, Lindsay.
He's doing it was said here first.
Yeah.
Marco Reus is playing the part of Lars Ricken next weekend.
Okay.
Come on as a sub and ice that bitch.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. I'm hoping that. That's the first Champions League final I remember ever watching. So I would love a repeat of that, to be honest.
Same. Stephanie Chapuisat and all them motherfuckers. Nice.
I want to give you guys something crazy I saw today. Apparently, Karim Adeyemi's up for sale.
What?
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Syrian pace, but what? Why? Sorry, we'll get back to that. Sorry, let's focus. Sorry, we'll get back to that, but let's focus. But he's what?
Yeah, but it's Dortmund though. That's what they do. They're a bit of a finishing school. No one ever really. I mean, the only person, again, and we've given him his props already, but the only person that really got there to stay was Royce. Everyone else that showed up at Dortmund was with an eye towards somewhere else in the future. So it makes sense that Adeyemi will get sold, I think.
You know what's crazy? Calling someone in finishing school is insane, by the way.
Yeah, it's not. Let's round up on Royce quickly. But Royce to me is always going to be just a legend of the game, regardless, because of the longevity in the modern era to stay at a club, despite him spending maybe half of it on a treatment table. But when he did play, Royce is one of the best forwards in Europe. When he was fit and firing, easily. I mean, there was heavy interest from Arsenal for a good 3 seasons kind of thing. And I feel like the only reason why we didn't really pursue as much because we had enough sick notes already at the time. But Royce is one of my favorite ever, especially if you like hipster players, if you like. He's always been in that mold where he's not quite, on the level of, some of the very, very best, but he's also low key enough for him to still be kind of hipstery, if you like. He fits that. He fits into that nice little grey area. Go on.
I kind of feel as if, and we can't confirm this because time has passed and it is what it is. But if he didn't suffer all those injuries, I think he would be spoken of on that level as an elite of the game. I think at a bare minimum, he would have had like an Eden Hazard type career at a minimum.
Yes. So
he scored 22 goals one season. 22 goals from a midfield, essentially a midfield wide player.
Yeah, no, but that's the funny thing. Before he went back to Dortmund, he was a second striker, and a lot of Royce's good work actually came playing through the middle of the pitch as well. He's such a versatile attacker. That's why Dortmund have played pretty much every formation in the last 10 years. They've evolved so much, and Royce has always found a space in the team because of his adaptability. Whether it's playing as a second striker, whether it's playing as a left attacker, whether it's playing as an attacking midfielder, Royce has always found his space in the team because of all of those qualities. I think when he came on against PSG, he was basically playing left wing back. So that's part of the reason why that adds to his legend. He does it all. Go on.
Which was a top 3 stupid thing Terzic did this season. That alone should have been a reason to fire him. You bring this guy on. Was it away to PSG?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like to basically see out a defensive performance, which Dortmund are not renowned for defending. You bring on a broken old man to come, like, bro, I would have fired him on the spot personally, but I'm not the sporting director. Good for him, lucky bastard.
How do you say elder abuse in German? Because clearly it's not good.
I'm gonna find that for you right now.
Go for it. Let's talk about the Champions League as a whole. It's been a long, arduous season. Obviously, I'm going to go through the group stages and tell you who qualified. And we can talk about surprises and, disappointments, all that. So Group A, which I had to live a nightmare through. Munich and Copenhagen obviously advanced to the knockout stage. Galatasaray advanced to the Europa League. And my beloved Man United decided to go get scored on 15 times. Hold on. We have negative goal difference in the Champions League and the Premier League. Get this bald bastard out of my club, please. Group B, Arsenal obviously won that group.
Wait, Tosin, before we leave Group A, I have to say that it was the funniest group in the Champions League that I can remember for a really long time.
Yeah.
I loved everything about it.
I'll tell you something that happened to me when we played against Copenhagen. This is when I was at my former job, and we were all watching the game together. And I was excited that Rashford scored. I was excited, and next thing you know, they scored on us twice, right? And then all of a sudden, my English accent flipped, and everyone looked like, "What the fuck was that? Like, what happened?" I was like, "They got me that upset. Like, I don't even know. I wasn't even speaking English. I was like, they're so stupid." And I think that was when I started. That's when I was like, this season's over for me. I quit. I'm over this shit. As even the Galatasaray game,
that's what I was gonna say. Both of them, I think both Galatasaray games, I think were arguably up there for the most entertaining games this season. Like, from a neutral perspective, I had a blast watching the home and away games. Genuinely, they were fantastic.
Neutral perspective, sure.
It was utter comedy. Like when Garnacho scored, and I think he did one of these to the crowd, and Galatasaray, and Bruno Fernandes comes through like, he didn't mean that shit. He didn't like, don't lynch us, please. He didn't mean that shit. But truthfully, Tosin, be honest with yourself. Your season was over when, as your manager likes to say every fucking week, the Garnacho goal at the Emirates got disallowed. So let's keep it.
He kept saying that over and over again. Yeah, he kept saying that over and over again. But yeah, like really, Rashford scored a brace, and then Icardi scores at the end. And it's just like, this is just stupid. Yeah. All of it was stupid. But let's go back to Group B. Arsenal obviously won the group with 13 points. Eindhoven came second with 9. Lens finished third, and Sevilla, they've been bad this year, finished fourth. Madrid and Napoli came out their groups with Braga in third. Berlin did not qualify. Sociedad and Milan came to the knockout phases with Benfica going to Europa League and Salzburg going to Group D. Atletico Madrid and Lazio, which was kind of crazy to see Lazio get to the knockout stage because
they suck.
One of your favorite players who never shows up in Mobile apparently be playing. So, no. And Celtic obviously didn't get out the group. Dortmund and PSG got out their groups. Milan and got to Europa League. And Newcastle, I'm so happy whenever Newcastle fails. They did not get out. City and Leipzig advanced to the knockout phase. Young Boys came to Europa League, and Belgrade came out in Group G. Finally, we have Barcelona and Porto who came out, and then Shakhtar Europa League and Antwerp with 4. They finished 4th. So, what was the biggest surprises for you guys?
I think it's worth noting that Dortmund topped that group, which is probably the hardest group. I just think there's a theme here in terms of in the Champions League or any top level football. People have these ideas about who's good, and a lot of the time it doesn't bear it out. And if you look at the fact that Dortmund topped a group with PSG, Milan, and Newcastle tells you something. So yeah, they've not been the fancy team at any stage after that in terms of the knockouts, but they definitely have something about them, right? To top a group like that, you have to have quite a lot of quality. Newcastle probably struggled a little bit in that group because they were just kind of fresh back in the Champions League, but they've got some really excellent players. And got a couple of good results, I think, didn't they?
They battered.
But yeah, I mean, my favourite part of the Champions League was definitely Man United's performance, and I say that as a hate watcher of Man United. I mean, it was very rewarding, but they are also, as we were discussing, it's not just you can't. It's not enough just to be crap at football. To be truly entertaining, you have to have they were losing 4-3 and 3-2 and 5-4.
Yeah.
Right? But because they had these little spots of lights like Garnacho and Bruno and Rashford and whoever, And then we're just completely and utterly disorganized at every other department of the pitch. And I loved it. I hope the same thing. Are you guys in the Europa League next season? I hope the same is.
We absolutely
the
are
same
in
thing
Europa League.
happens
We
next
are in
season
Europa League.
with, I don't know who will be, like Maribor and Hibs and whoever else in the Europa League.
Oh, man.
Hey, listen,
Slovenia,
Elliot,
buddy.
Elliot, it could be worse. We could be in Conference League. Could be worse. Dean, what was your favorite moment of the Champions League this year?
Favorite moment?
And your biggest surprise and all of that?
Well, favorite moment is obviously Arsenal getting through to, the quarters, because that was sort of the threshold for, I think, pretty much everyone in the fan base. One of the other fellows told me if I'm wrong, but I think we all kind of had that as our minimum requirement, that we have to get through at least one level of the knockouts to feel as if it was actually worth the effort. Actually, that's not true because the money's nice. But there was that. So that was, specifically David Raya saving penalties because, that was a player that sort of had an issue with the fan base. So the fan base had an issue with him because of how he came in and the fact that he was replacing someone that was a favorite from last season in Ramsdale. So the fact that he saved penalties and essentially got us through a very tough tie and, sort of made his place in the team was my personal favorite moment. From a surprise standpoint, I thought it's messed up because Union Berlin, another team that you want to hate watch or make fun of. I mean, they're a hipster favorite, but I just thought it was hilarious that one week they were playing at the Bernabeu and they were in the middle of like a 19-game losing streak or some shit, and they were in the relegation zone in the Bundesliga. I just thought that was delightful and hilarious. But otherwise, it was good little competition. Not really surprised by much because again, there's not we're in an era of the Champions League where there's just not a lot in terms of jeopardy. The most surprising thing about this tournament in total is the fact that Dortmund are in the final. That is the most surprising thing because I did not see that coming. I don't think I predicted them getting out of the group. So good on them.
Yeah. Coach, what was your biggest surprise and disappointment?
Biggest surprise, Eric Dyer playing in a Champions League semi-final. I don't think anybody could have saw that at the beginning of the season. Like, there's no way in hell. I don't think he even saw it at the beginning of the season, to be honest. There's no way he believed that was going to happen. So that was the biggest surprise for me. Biggest disappointment, I'd probably say PSG. I know, obviously, it sounds crazy saying that they got to semi-final, but I genuinely thought that if we're talking about scripts and whatnot, I thought Mbappe would have been able to find something extra against Dortmund. That's a huge disappointment for me. I think someone that I've been championing as the best player in the world and whatnot, it would have been nice if he didn't embarrass me in front of all the hoes, So that would have been good. But I think if I'm gonna answer my favorite moment, I think it's really boiling the piss of the Porto fans and the Porto manager and the Porto players. To be fair, fuck Porto basically is what I'm saying. Like, I never do this. I wouldn't say I never do this, but it's rare that I scour the internet for every single interview post-match of an opposing team, whether it's players or managers. And believe you me, that night, I think I spent a good 2 hours on YouTube and all these other like weird sites just looking for all the post-match reaction from the Porto perspective because I genuinely just needed to hear their pain. What the fuck is that?
I know what that is. That's Porto's Arsenal trophy from when they beat Arsenal like 100 years ago.
Oh, okay, cool, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I didn't realize that the hate was that deep. I didn't know. So now I understand it months later after we beat them. I see why they were so passionate about sticking it on Arsenal. They really hate us.
But I don't get it. I don't know Porto. Who the fuck is Porto, bro? Like, you know what I mean? Obviously, to Arsenal, like I didn't know we had a right. Last time we played them, we beat them 5-0. So it's just like I don't get it. I don't get what the issue was. But more than anything, their coach is just a piece of shit, man. Like let's have it right. Like genuinely,
no longer their coach. He's moved on.
Oh, when did he get sacked?
He didn't get sacked. He left.
He left.
He went
today,
to Marseille the other day.
Like literally today. Like I think Villas-Boas is not his homie, so they had to end that contract.
You see, and that's what you get. You're doing all that shit, and they don't even fuck you anyway. Like
I think Marseille have done well there. He's a good coach. I mean, I thought Porto's tactics were legitimate against Arsenal. I love Pepe, so I was kind of enjoying that, even though he was playing against my team. I think the tie of the the Champions League for me was that PSG Barcelona, was it quarterfinal?
Yeah,
round of 16, where both teams lost at home, and the whole thing turned on Araujo doing like an incredibly stupid thing. I love that about the Champions League, is just when you get really high level players just blowing up under the pressure. Vitinha was great in that tie as well. And yeah, I mean, I and Rafinha in the first leg was fantastic as well, wasn't he? You got some really great performances in that one, and it was a kind of odd thing as well. Luis, in terms of your football heritage, like Luis Enrique up against Xavi, Xavi playing really agricultural, direct football, and Luis Enrique obviously managing against Barcelona is like almost like making your head hurt. And then all the fact that Dembele was getting booed by the Barcelona fans, wasn't he?
Yeah.
For God knows what reason.
On the bench after they won the tie.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to see more of that. Like, I mean, it feels like the top level of the game is really incestuous, and at its best, you end up with ties like that where there's just like so many different layers to it. It'll be interesting to see what Luis Enrique does. He's sticking around, right, with PSG.
Yeah.
The kind of post Mbappe rebuild, I think, could be really interesting, particularly if they get the guy from Napoli, the Georgian guy, Kvicha. I think he's a serious player. Are they going to get Osimhen? What's the latest on that?
Apparently, Osimhen wants to go to Chelsea. So,
why would anyone want to go to Chelsea?
Because Osimhen drank from the from the Kool-Aid of Didier Drogba. So
he wants to join Chelsea 15 years ago.
Like, I don't even like. Is this guy even Nigerian? Is he really? I don't know. Like, at least claim that you love Celestine Babayaro or some shit like that. You know, like, or John Mikel B. This motherfucker said Drogba. Like, what a prick. I don't like him. He cost us the Nations Cup. Let's talk about that shit.
Not too much. Yeah. Let's talk about individual awards. Coach, you want to hand out some individual awards?
Worst player in the tournament, probably to ever play in the Champions League. Eric Dyer goes to me. That's my first one.
No, I'm gonna hear your Dyer and top it with Araujo. Because I don't understand why. I think just because he was wearing a Barcelona jersey, everyone just automatically assumed that he was this great, one of the next best center backs. I don't see it for him. I didn't see it for him in his local league. And I hate to say this, as he a brother, but I enjoyed him getting embarrassed in that PSG tie. I've never rated that fucker. And he's shit. And they're going to sell him to some idiot club that's going to pay too much for him. But that's neither here nor there. Go back to him.
No, for real. And I absolutely hear you. But you have to understand something. He put his hands on Guendouzi and then he shushed Aaron Ramsey. I'm sorry. This is beef for life. It's like, I'm not joking. Our grandkids can get it on, bro. Like, it's like for real. I'm serious. So fuck Eric Dyer. But if we're talking, I suppose maybe one of the players of the tournament, I'm gonna go back to Elliot's point. I think Vitinha was consistent throughout. I think when PSG underperformed in some of those games in the group stages, I think he was again the only standout for them. If I want to go down, I suppose a more obvious route, I think Cruz deserves to be mentioned as well. I absolutely think Rudiger should be mentioned as well. Based off that second leg alone against City, that's one of the finest performances you'll probably see like anywhere this season. And if you want to go young player or youngish player, can we count Sancho? Because Sancho is still only 23. I think the Champions League has provided a platform for him to show just how good he is. I know everyone talked about his athleticism not being quite cut out for the Premier League and stuff like that, but he's been performing ridiculously in the Champions League. Go on.
I don't know, man. I think this is just a result of one really good performance.
It wasn't just the PSG game.
He wasn't that good throughout the tournament, bro. Let's be honest. He wasn't that good in the Bundesliga either.
Okay? No, I'm literally just talking about the Champions League.
He ran into Nuno Mendes and embarrassed that kid. And that's literally it. Like, if he does something in the final, then we can re-record this pod afterwards. And I'll let you go on about Sancho for 10 days. But I don't think he's done enough to deserve a superlative, personally. If you're going to mention people from Dortmund, let's talk about Sabitzer. Let's talk about Hummels. Let's talk about Schlotterbeck.
We're going to do team of the tournament, and Sabitzer absolutely goes in. He's probably the first midfielder I put in, to be honest. But yeah, I think, do we want to do team of the tournament now? We can?
If Elliot has any awards he wants to give out to anybody.
Ooh, come back to me on that one. Do you mean like player of the season or
Just
Play the
goal or...
tournament, anything that comes to you. You can even make it up. You can be like the worst haircut if you like.
Eric Dyer as well wins that one as well. But go on.
Yeah, I need a minute to think about that. I'll just interrupt later on.
Okay. I'll give mine out. The baldest of the bald goes to Eric Ten Hag. You went fully bald, and that's what you win. So Ballon de Bald, that's what he gets.
Well, we definitely have the worst goalkeeper in the tournament, and I hate to do it, but I got to do it. It was Andre Onana. Because
oh my God, he was bad.
He was drunk in that group stage, man. Like, he's a good goalkeeper.
Oh my God, I remember some of the mistakes, actually.
It was bad.
He set black goalkeepers back another 400 years.
Yeah.
450, bro.
Yeah.
He set us back a lot. He improved towards the end of the season, but my God.
How is he perceived by United fans? Because I see him do a lot of good things, and then he also does a lot of crazy stuff.
Love it. We love him now. He's our Black Barthez, so you know, it is what it is.
That's a really good analogy for him, to be honest. Yeah, I like that a lot.
I'd like if Harry Maguire should start like kissing his head. I'd be up for that.
I mean, he has the same haircut as Bart Simpson. Can't really kiss that, so you know.
Too much hair.
I was kind of scared when I see a grown man with just long chin hair and a high top.
He does look like Bart Simpson. I've never. He's the same like shape. Yeah. I'm not going to unsee that now.
Yeah, there you go. You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's do a team of the season. You want to do it as a collective, and we all kind of
I think
figure it out.
I'm just here to hate.
Cool.
If I don't like a name, I'm gonna yell at it.
Okay. Who we putting in goal?
In goal, do you know? Let's just be fair here. I think Lunin should be there. Lunin has impressed me more in the Champions League than he has in the actual league, to be honest.
But he probably won't start the final.
He's not. He's gonna be T-Boy.
Yeah, but I'm gonna go Lunin.
Okay. I like that choice. Yeah. We're gonna go standard 4-3-3. Elliot, who would you put as your right back for a team of the tournament?
This is a problem. Is the Champions League just kind of blurs into one, doesn't it? You're kind of thinking about. I don't know. Who's the Real Madrid right back?
Carvajal.
Danny Carvajal.
No, he's not going in. Who's the Dortmund right back? It's gonna take a while.
I really have my answer for right back.
Okay, who are you going for, coach?
I was going to say Kimmich.
Nah, I can't put him in. He was forced. He was playing right back under duress. He didn't want to play there, so we can't put him in.
Yeah, but
you can't just put him in because he scored a goal against Arsenal.
It's not. It's actually. I think by.
What about Ben White? Ben White was better than Kimmich.
Actually, do you know what? Yeah, I don't mind Ben White. I don't mind Ben White as well, actually.
That's my boy, but I'm not having that. It's like, if Ben White was good enough to be in the season of the tournament, Arsenal would have made the semifinals of the tournament. Put it that way.
Who's the PSG right back?
Hakimi.
Nah, he was shit.
He was crap.
He's not good.
Crap.
He was terrible.
He stunk it up for like 4 straight games. Like
I used to love that guy, but he cannot defend.
No.
What is going on with that guy? All right, who else have we got? Right back is proving tricky. Obviously, Kyle Walker, but I don't want to put a City player in there.
No, he didn't deserve to be there. I'm telling you guys, it's Kimmich. Like, for real.
All right, fine. We'll put Kimmich there.
Fine.
We won't argue. Center backs. One has to be Hummels.
And the other's
Hummels and Rudiger.
It's Hummels and Rudiger, guys. Like,
there we go.
I don't think it's even up for discussion there.
German, very German.
Yeah, Hummels and Rudiger. There we go.
Okay.
I think that's best. Who's left back? That's gonna be a hard one.
Yeah.
Ferland Mendy.
Nuno Mendes.
No Mendes.
No, we're not getting there.
I didn't say break dancer. But yeah, I think Ferland Mendy should go there. I think Ferland Mendy deserves to be there.
I'm gonna come back on hate on that, but we'll let you have Mendy for now.
Okay.
Wait, who's the left back who defended really well against Saka for Porto? You know what I mean?
Wendell.
Wendell.
Brazilian. He was fantastic.
Wendell, yeah.
He was really good.
He was good.
Can we give him that defending a 40% Saka? Can we? I don't mind, but
you know who else was great, but only in the ties against Arsenal was Rafa Guerreiro. But
yeah.
I don't know if you can put him in because
he played left midfield, but he basically played left wing back basically. But yeah.
Yeah, it was a joint job. You know, you don't mark Saka out of the game alone. Same thing with Wendell. He had a lot of help, but he was good.
Yeah.
He was good in the duels.
We're gonna go with 4-3-3. So midfield, Tony Cruz, Sabitzer, and
Vitinha.
Jude and Vitinha. Yeah. I was gonna
What
say
about Zubamendi?
No.
Sociedad had a nice Champions League.
No.
No?
This is a campaign where he lost me.
timeline.
He lost me in this campaign. I feel
I'm saying that if we go 4-3-3, right, there has to be space for Jude Van Nistelrooy somewhere.
Yeah, and it could be a false 9-4-3-3.
No,
Yeah.
but like false 9. I mean, you know,
who's
is
the
the
striker
there?
you're picking over Jude?
This is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll put Jude in the front line. Fuck it. We
So
love Carlo, right? That's what Carlo did.
Yeah. So Jude, Rodrigo, and Vinny rounds out our front three.
Nah.
No?
I think Jude, Rodrigo, not Rodrigo.
Vinny? So Jude, Vinny, and who? Because Vinny's going to have to be the left wing. I don't care what
Yeah, for sure. But Rodrigo, I don't mind. Go on, sorry?
I said Vinny can definitely have left wing. Then Jude as a center forward. But the right winger doesn't have to be Rodrigo, I don't think.
Okay.
No.
How about Karim Adeyemi? I really enjoyed the defensive job he did in the PSG tie. That was one.
How good has he been outside of the latter stages? I'm not really.
Yeah,
I didn't see enough of their
that's
games.
What I'm saying. I don't think he's been that good.
How about Leroy Sané? He kind of won the Arsenal tie on one leg.
We can go with it.
I'm not completely against that, to be honest.
I'm against it. I don't. We should weight everything based on the tie that we're all traumatized by, just losing to Bayern.
I have no skin in this game.
Julian Brandt's been good. We could stick him in.
Do you know what? That's not even a
He's
bad
nice
shout
player.
either. To be honest, we probably need a bit more Dortmund in this team because they made the final, obviously. So
yeah,
I'm not mad at Brandt.
We gave them Sabitzer, right? That's enough.
And Hummels.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah, it's all right. Mbappe doesn't make
the manager. Carlo Ancelotti. It's going to be Terzic.
If we're talking about if we're talking about actual goals and whatnot, I did think initially Harry Kane, but no, fuck him. He only scored penalties, really. So yeah. Did nothing against Real Madrid as well. Mbappe, yeah, I suppose we could. It just feels like we're just putting him in though, just because. Pause. Fuck it, I'm putting Saka in. How about that?
Füllkrug. You could put Füllkrug in. He was good in all the knockout games, wasn't he?
Yeah. In this house, we're putting in Saka.
Saka, sure, let's go with that.
We're putting in Saka. In his first Champions League campaign, 8 goals and assists, right, at 22 years old. He goes into my team of the season.
And he was cheated out of that penalty as
exactly.
well.
Dean, I dare you to disagree with that. Go on.
Why would I disagree with that? He's my favorite player. He's my son. Like, come on.
I can't believe I just witnessed a coup in front of my face.
Yeah,
no. The theme is mutiny.
I respect it. So we got our theme of the season. And last but not least, let's do some predictions. Who do you guys think is going to win in the Champions League final?
That feels a bit anticlimactic. We should have done this at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's why I saved it for last.
I think, I'll be honest with you, it's at Wembley. So, whichever team has Aaron Ramsey. Yeah.
I already made my prediction earlier. I think it's going to be a random 3-1 to Dortmund. And Marco Reus comes off the bench to score the clincher. And we're all going to be like, how did this happen? And none of us are going to be able to explain it. And it's going to be okay because it's happening to Real Madrid for once. Because they always confuse everybody. It's time for them to get confused. I think it's kind of seen as a foregone conclusion that they're going to win. But, you know, the grass is green and the ball is white and you got to play the game. So let's see what happens.
Ellie, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to try and say something interesting, but I think Real Madrid will win. Which is kind of like what you always have to say when Real Madrid are playing a game of Champions League football. But
this is the team like who had 10 minutes down, right? They're 1-0 down. And guess who decides to score for them twice? Joselu.
Yeah.
But like, what? Why?
They always find a way.
That shit was hilarious.
I'm going to go with Dean, though. I think Dortmund are going to win. I think Dortmund are going to score first as well, actually. That's how far I'm going. I think Dortmund are going to win 2-1, and they'll score first as well. Yeah, I'm going with that.
I'd be okay with that. That's what I want.
I just think Real Madrid, the thing that Real Madrid could do at the moment, where they, like the recent games, they've been playing like 60, 70 minutes with one midfield and then bringing Camavinga and Modric off the bench is unbelievable to be able to do that.
It's not fair, is it? What you think about it?
It's just ridiculous. So I think they'll probably do that again. And like that's the critical phase of any final usually.
Only issue is no Tchouaméni.
He's suspended.
Oh, he's out?
No, he has an injury.
Broke his foot, metatarsal. You know.
So is it Nacho and Rudiger at the back?
Yeah, probably because Militao was that knee ain't ready yet.
Yeah.
I literally saw him take a shot from like 60 yards the other week. It looked fine to me.
And I also seen them get turned around.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, but that's okay. He almost got turned around he got turned around by the almost Pichichi in Alexander Sorloth, who sadly for me did not win the Pichichi in La Liga. I had my rent money on him, but that's okay. I'll live. It's all good.
Yeah.
FanDuel, I will never forgive you, motherfuckers. All right.
Anything you guys want to add before we head out of here?
No, just thank you again, Elliot, for joining us. Where can we find Elliot? Where can we find you at?
My Twitter is currently locked, so I can't say anything.
That's fine.
I'm like Elliot__Ross when I'm unlocked.
Okay.
Free all the political prisoners.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to mention like Rodri. I think he'll be missing the final. I think that's probably because of his loser mentality and the rest of the Man City team. So yeah, shout out to him.
Speaking of Rodri, Kobe Mino untucked his shirt, and I'm very happy about that. So
wait, in the final, he went.
No, he didn't untuck it physically, but metaphorically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would have been really funny.
Hands on him, man.
Yeah, he did.
You know who has a really good record against Rodri is McTominay, because McTominay was in the Scotland team that beat Spain in the Euros.
Did he score
and
two?
then they would have beaten them again, but the McTominay scored an amazing free kick and it was disallowed with a really, really dodgy VAR decision. And you know what Rodri did? He complained after all those games that Scotland had the wrong mentality and were too defensive and blah, blah, blah. So I'm sick of that guy.
Yeah, he's
less Rodri.
Yeah, he's Xavi. Like Xavi used to do that shit a lot back in the day for Barcelona. Whenever they draw a game, he'd bitch and moan about the style of play of the other team. But it just occurred to me that the next time Arsenal plays Man City, I really need Ben White to walk up to Rodri and untuck his fucking shirt. Just untuck that shit for shits and giggles. I know they're not in the same zone of the pitch, but do it anyway. Arteta won't mind.
I need to do a bit more than that, but I'll take a shirt untucked for sure.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Shirtless Plantain Show, Champions League edition. Once again, thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Coach. Thank you, Dean, for your time. Everybody, we're out. Thank you so much for listening. Shout out to Believe Network. We're out. Everyone, take it easy. Peace.
Peace.
Take your shirt off. Take your shirt off. Plenty.